Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the newest edition of Stateside Market Report with Bryant and Tim. We are here to bring you the news of the week and what to expect this week, what we saw last week. Hopefully, give you some tips and tricks that can help you navigate this DC, Virginia, Maryland real estate market. Bryant, how are you?
I'm pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Good. I don't know if you noticed, but my wife saw an episode of ours and was disgusted by the clutter on my shelf. So it's now super clean because she said I looked unprofessional. And so we're just trying to keep it a little more professional
You're
here.
just trying to keep up with me. Look
I
at that.
can't, man. I got to get all the lights. I'm
I
I'm
got a
working on it.
fancy
That's the next
light.
step. You got
I
lights you can
got,
control with your phone.
I do. Yeah.
We're
I
gonna be
have
influencers.
I have a rooster. Where's like this guy? I think
That
it
guy.
came from Mexico, I believe. I think somebody from Mexico gave that to me. Anyways.
That guy's cool. That's all you need is a rooster. We all have little weird things. I got a little former Washington Commanders bobblehead back here from 1968. It's my pride and joy. Um, if it falls, I don't like it being that close to the edge. We're off topic. So let's talk about real estate. Um,
That's what we're here
We
for.
are seeing absorption rates getting worse in this market. I think they're at a 3 month or about a 3 month average across the nation. I mean, give or take several markets. But here we're just again seeing lack of inventory. And I don't want to start every episode talking about there's no houses out there, but it affects everything. So I think today, we'll talk a couple numbers and I'll throw it back to you for some specifics about what happened last week. But I think what we should talk about today is what a lot of people, experts, are calling the great rate lockdown. And this comes from the COVID lending era of 2.5%, 3% rates, where millions of home buyers got mortgages at all-time low rates and locked them in for 30 years of fixed financing. Now, when you see that double and triple in some cases to 6.5%, 7%, 6.25%, what have you, if you have 2.5, that is a totally different asset class. That's
Mhm.
going from a $1 million house to a $650,000 house. And it's also, it's really hard for everyone to swallow going from, adding 1,200 to $2,000 in your mortgage payment every month. If you were to move, give up that rate, exchange it for a higher one. So that, with all the other perfect storm of low inventory, is really contributing to the lack of inventory because people are really reticent to sell at such a great rate and take on, because you have to move, right? I mean, it's kind of like common sense that you have to move,
Mhm.
and like we kind of say that, and it tongue in cheek, but you have to move somewhere. You can't just sell and, live in a van unless, you want to do that. And that's cool because I'm into that. But you have to move somewhere. So if you sell a 2.5% interest rate, move into something at 6.5, you can afford much less house. And it's hard to swallow for everyone to do that. So, Brian, can you give us some numbers, I guess, in terms of absorption rate and what we're seeing in terms of new mortgage applications? These all play together. And I think
Right.
we'll bring it back to the reticence of a lot of people to sell based on the mortgage rate fluctuations.
Yeah, so it's been about a month since we talked about the absorption rates around here. And if you guys kind of remember our discussions about that, is really the absorption rate is if we just shut off the valve of all inventory hitting the market today, how long would it take for houses to run out? Right, in 4 to 6 months, very good market. Very healthy market. The last time we talked about the numbers, I believe Northern Virginia was about 0.96, which is a little bit less than a month of inventory
Crazy.
on the market, which is crazy. It actually went down. It's down to 22 days.
What is
Yeah,
happening? There's
that's
no houses.
3 weeks of inventory. DC stayed about the same, about 2 months. It did go down a little bit. It went from 2.3 to 2. So it dropped a little bit. And then Maryland dropped below a month. The last time we talked, it was about 1.03 something, and it's now at 0.891, so about 27 days. And
Just to
and
recap, Brian, like
Yeah,
a healthy real estate market is typically 4 to 6 months of inventory.
exactly.
We're at
Yeah.
less than a quarter of what is healthy in this market.
Hmm.
And again, this is not nationwide. Nationwide, it's at about 3 months, which is still unhealthy. But under a month is just a severe lack of inventory. So sorry.
Right, and that all goes back to you know what you were talking about earlier. The everybody that's been locked into a 3% rate, they're just not selling because they don't want to take on a 6.5% interest rate. Like, why would you do that if you don't have to? So that is the leading cause of why the inventory is so low. And on top of that, we are seeing showing activity also start to decrease right now, which is, I don't know if, like, I mean, Tim and I follow this, but interest rates actually kind of went up here last week. They went up
Mhm.
a little bit more than they had recently. They are kind of coming, started back down a little bit this week, but that really took a hit on the amount of people that were taking or filling out applications to get mortgages. So the Mortgage Bankers Association puts out a weekly report that talks about how many people applied to get a mortgage, right? And compared to last week, we had a 4% decrease. I mean, not huge, but it's trending downward. And again, that goes right in line with the interest rates, right? People saw the interest rate spike, they're holding back. Uh, so that's kind of where we're at right now with that. And to go back to the amount of days on inventory, right? People like the national average about three months, right? Kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, right now,
And
yeah.
that's what, some areas of the country, they talk about housing prices are going to decrease in 2023. And that could happen, right? That could most likely is going to happen
Sure.
in some areas of the country. Around the DC area, the lack of inventory alone and the amount of people that need houses is there. You're just not going to see that huge decrease in prices. They're actually predicting it to go up a 1%, which is kind of crazy to think about when a lot of the other parts of the country are expected to go down. So
It is. And I think that speaks to the resiliency of this market. We've talked about that ad nauseum on other episodes. It's just, the federal government's here. It's a very transitory population. People move in for different deployments, different contracting jobs. They're here for several years. They move out. More people move in. There's always people coming to DC. It's the nation's capital. Like there is always a high demand for housing here, and when high demand is present, you're going to get high prices. So that's just, we don't foresee any real significant dip in prices like you're seeing in some of these other markets. But I think it's an interesting conversation about the whole mortgage rate thing, because it was, I mean, we look back to the COVID, 50 people in line to see an open house, and 40 offers, no contingencies, 100,000 over asking. That was because it was free money. Like if you're if you're borrowing for 30 years at
mm-hmm,
2.5% interest in an inflationary environment, that is literally free money.
mm-hmm.
It's not free anymore. And I think that changes it. Well, it definitely changes it. I don't think it changes it. It
Yeah, it
100%
definitely
changes it.
does. Right.
But we also see people still need to move. Like honestly, market forces are big, interest rates are big, all these things, inventory, lack of inventory, all these things are big. But primary housing, not on the investment side, but primary housing, things still happen. People move for jobs. There's family emergencies. There's divorce. I've outgrown this house. I have to downsize. There are reasons, life reasons to move that are completely outside of market forces. And I think that alone sustains the limited access to inventory that we have. People still have to move for whatever reason. So we're not going to see just it dry up and you can't find a house, period. It's just you have to work a little bit harder, and get a little bit more strategic in what you're offering. So I think, this is kind of the fun part of our job. It can be frustrating when you're putting in an offer against 18 other offers and doing the little nuanced things we do in our offers to win houses. But I think this is kind of where we don't shamelessly plug our services very often. I think this is where we excel, is to find, these little niches and these strategies on offers, and just negotiating with the listing agent to really get our clients to the top of the pile. And that is necessary in this environment. This is not an environment where you can just go, I don't like to advertise on this, but I'm doing it. This is not an environment where you can just go pick a realtor off of,
Right. Absolutely.
Zillow and just say, please give me a house, because it's difficult. And all these factors are not going to change anytime soon. So I think it's fun and challenging, and every day is different. And we love talking about how to help navigate this environment. So yeah, we'll just, keep plugging along, trying to find people houses. And again, not doom and gloom. Man, Brian, every time we get on here, we're like, oh, there's no houses. But it's just setting
Well,
expectations, right? Like
yeah, and that's
it's
what we're
difficult.
trying to do. It's not the real estate world is not always, unicorns and rainbows, right? There are
Right.
there are times when it's rough.
Yeah.
That said, it isn't doom and gloom, right? I mean, there is a lack of inventory, but it's not like a 2008 2007 2008 environment where there's all sorts of damning information in lending practices and all that kind of stuff. So we're just not in that market, and
Yep.
it is hard right now. But it's not doom and gloom. Like
No.
we talk about doom and gloom, but we're giving you a, you know, an honest talk about what's going on, what we're seeing on the ground. People are still buying houses and people are still getting great deals right now. So that's another benefit. Like last year at this time, sellers had all the power,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
They were getting over asking price, waiving all contingencies. And kind of going back to what you were saying, Tim, about having a good real estate agent in trimming the fat off of the contract is kind of what we call it, right? Like don't ask
Hmm.
for 60 days to do a continue, you know, like really, you know, shorten those windows, but also always having a way out the door if you need to. Like
Yep. Little exit route.
I'll never advise a client, and I won't say never, but very rare occasions, and it needs to be a very specific client to waive all contingencies to get an offer. I just won't do that because
Right.
for whatever reason, if we need to get out of that contract, we have to have one of those contingencies in place. So
Yep.
that not all agents do that. We run into people, we run into offers all the time that waive all the contingencies. And
Everything.
I can't believe it. I just don't know who these agents are and what they're advising their clients to do. So
Well, and honestly, Brian, I mean, this is a little bit of a non sequitur, but we're seeing a lot of people that are, I don't want to say in trouble, but regretting their purchase during
mm-hmm,
the buying frenzy of the last year and a half, where they just, you know, paid 200,000 over asking. The price has settled now. And obviously, if you're not selling, it doesn't really matter, but like prices have come down, you know, and you didn't get that inspection contingency and you have a horizontal crack in your basement that
yeah.
you didn't see. You know, like these are real problems. And not insurmountable, but costly, you know, like, and we don't want our client to be in that position. So it's
No.
just like there are times where you have to get a little bit forward thinking and trim off as many contingencies as possible, but like we like to balance risk and reward, you know, like you
Mm-hmm,
have to do this to get this house. These are the things that might occur if we do this, you know, just really painting the picture. And that's super important right now, and I think that's what we're getting at is like this is not just a transactional environment. This is very much an in-depth strategic study of what you're looking
mm-hmm,
to accomplish with this offer. And things change constantly. Every day things change, you know, and things come up and we navigate things, and we do a lot of work on the back end that people don't see
yeah.
every
A lot
day.
of stress. Yeah.
Yeah. And we just try to like allay any stress and then just, you know, present a rosy picture to the client once we've navigated all these hurdles, you know, and it's yeah, I mean it's fun and we enjoy it. And I think, you know, all numbers aside, I think next week maybe we can talk some tips and tricks about, generally speaking, and I'm setting you up. Brian doesn't know what I'm about to say because I
Mm-hmm.
rarely know what I'm about to say. But I think we can maybe talk some tips and tips and tricks about how to present an offer in a competitive market. Just practical advice. I think, you know, this, Brian and I are still kind of figuring out our formula here, what we want to talk about. We don't just want to throw numbers at you all the time. We want to provide practical, valuable information about how to present an offer, how to navigate inspections, you know, how to do financing, all these things, because I think the more you know, the more comfortable you are making one of the biggest purchases, if not the biggest purchase of your life, or selling the biggest asset you've ever
Mm-hmm.
had. You know, like we always talk about buying, but selling is very much a big part of this as well, exactly half of it. So I think if we offer some practical tips about how to navigate this, that could be valuable. Brian, what do you think about that now that I just threw you out
I
there?
think that's a good idea, and I'll add in there. You know, not all loan types are equal either, right? So, like doing like a VA loan or doing an FHA loan compared to a conventional or whatever, there are differences, right? Or there's differences in working with online lenders, like, you know, I won't name any,
Oh, yeah.
compared to
Real
local
people.
lenders that, I mean, on a Saturday when we're going to put in an offer on a house and I
Yeah.
can't get a hold of your lender to get a pre-approval letter because you chose X, you know, fill in the blank
Rhymes with schmucket mortgage.
schmucket mortgage. Uh, and I can't get a hold of anybody, and we're not able to compete for this offer because I can't get a hold of somebody to get an updated pre-approval letter. When, you know, we, you know, working with the local lenders that we work with a lot, or even ones we don't work with, as long as they're, you know, as long as they're willing to answer their phone on the weekend and give me a letter so I can put in an offer, that's going to be the difference between getting a house and
The
not getting a house.
difference. Yeah.
So I would love to talk and chat on that and break that down. So I think
Perfect.
that's a good idea, Tim.
We'll do that. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll throw it out there. We'll throw it out there next week. We'll give you some practical guidance. We are all about. I mean, we're goofballs. I'm a goofball. I won't speak for Brian. I'm a goofball with sloppy shelves that my wife has to fix. Brian has to fix my lighting. We're a work in progress, but we know real estate, and I think that's what we're here to
Exactly.
talk about. And
Hmm.
we're all about the real estate community and just providing value because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we want to dispel some of these things. We want to allay fears, and like any guidance we can provide or advice we can provide that's helpful in that manner, we are here to do so. So let's keep on that train. So that's it. Any final words of advice? We're coming up with segments here. Bryant, what's your final thought?
Don't freak out. Yeah, don't. I
Yes.
would say my final advice is don't think it's all doom and gloom. We're gonna give
Perfect.
you some of the doom and gloom data and information, but at the end of the day, it's not it's not the end of the world with the
Not at all.
market's at right now,
No,
right?
we'll
So
navigate it. That is it. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it very much. Please subscribe. Please pass this on to other folks if
smash
you find
that
it valuable.
subscribe button.
No, don't. See, we did it once. I don't want to do it ever again. I hate it
You
so much.
don't. All
The
right.
smashing the subscribe. Smash the subscribe. And then yeah, share it with people, and hopefully we provide valuable information, and we need some feedback so we can continue to do so. So please send us notes, send us comments. We're happy to talk through any of these things with you. And until next time, Bryant and Tim signing off from Stateside. We'll see you next week.
All right.